Okay, guys, tonight we're going to have some more fun with PowerShell. And I'm still just loving this stuff. We got some really good stuff for you tonight. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to assign schema privileges in PowerShell. And the reason this comes about is because it happened to me actually this afternoon at work where I had a single user account. I've got a database that's got, close to like 300 schemas in it. And I've got a single user account that I needed to give certain permissions to every single one of those schemas, and I didn't feel like writing a SQL cursor. So what I did was I decided to open up the PowerShell command line and see if I could figure out how to do it. Oh, gee, I actually got it like in the first couple tries. It was really easy. So this is along the same lines. You're going to see a lot of the same stuff here that we saw when we did the changing the job owners, right? So let's go ahead and get into it, and I'll explain some of this stuff as we go. So I'll show you what I've got here. I'm going to use... Actually, let me do this real quick. Let me go ahead and give this guy rights in this database. Oh, good. I already do. Excellent. What's that? Okay, good. Oh, it's DB owner. Good. So, okay, he's got rights in the database, and you can apply this stuff. I'll do another video on that later. But okay, so what we've got here is inside the database, we've got security and we've got schemas, and we've got all these system schemas and these 6 schemas that I created already, and they shouldn't have any permissions in them. There you go. See, no permissions in them yet. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to start from the SQL PS tool instead of going to PowerShell proper, because there's not much difference really. There's just a lot of extra typing in PowerShell proper, right? So I'll right click on schemas and go to Start PowerShell. And you'll see this will come up with PowerShell here in a second. I'll make this a little bit wider, make it easier when I go to edit things. There we go. Okay, so I've got here. Now, the first thing I need to do, obviously, I started in the schemas. See, I started in schemas. So the first thing I need to do is to actually, I need to load my assembly. So, oops, sorry. That's your square bracket and assembly, colon, and then load with. Again, this isn't case sensitive. I'm doing this just so you guys can read it. And then I come here. Where is it? There it is. And then Microsoft.smo. There. Load that. There we go. Got that loaded. If it doesn't come back with anything, then that means it didn't load. So anyway, we got this loaded. So now we have to create our variable. I'm just going to call it S. Doesn't really stand for anything. Equals new object. And then that new object is going to be a Microsoft SQL Server SMO object permissions set. Yep. That's an object permission set. Actually, here, let me do this for you, just because I'm such a nice guy. There we go, object permission set. Enter. There we go. Now, you can see here, just like in the job video, that if I just type S, I will see all of the things that I have available to me, right? These are all of the properties. So by defining an object permission set, I'm saying that these are the objects that I want to be able to change, okay? Or these are the objects that I can change on the schema objects. So you can see I've got my select right here, so I can change the select property, the view definition property, the update, the execute, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my account rights to select and execute on all of the schemas. How does that sound? So the first thing I need to do is all of these are set to false. So the first thing I need to do is set the ones to true that I want. So that'll be $s dot, what did I say, execute? Execute equals true. And then I'll just change select equals true. And now you see there I have both of those set to true. So this $true is the is a built-in PowerShell Boolean variable, right? Variable. You could also set them to 1 or 0 because that's obviously Boolean as well, right? But $true and $false will be the same thing as 1 and 0. So I've got these two set. That means that those are the two that I'm actually going to set when I end up calling the grant method. Now, what methods are available to me on this object is pretty easy. $, pipe it to a get member, and you can see these are all of the members, all of the methods and properties that I have available to me, right? So you can come over here and you've got to remove. These are the properties that we just looked at, right? I've got here, I've got remove, I've got a set send, I've got take ownership, I've got all of these guys here that are set on this specific instance of this object, right? Because S is an object now. It is an object permission set object, okay, which is an SMO object. Now, since I'm in the schemas, right, if I just do a GCI in there, I can list all my schemas, right, and I see who the owners are. It's the schema itself that I'm going to be assigning these permissions to, okay? So it's the schema itself that I need to be able to call the grant object for. So if I say GCI, which is get child item, right, and pipe that to a get member, now I can see all of the methods that are available to me to perform against those schemas. And the one that I'm looking for right here is grant. And you'll notice right here, if you follow this all the way across, that grant has object permission and permission and the string and grantee names. And so there are several things in here, right? So grant is overloaded, and overloaded simply means, for those of you that don't know what overloaded methods are, overloaded simply means that there are several ways you can call it, right? So you can call it with, you know, a method could be overloaded, you know, its default could be no parameters, and then you could have a version of it that, you know, you can call with 1 parameter, and a version of it that you can call with 5 parameters, and so on, right? And so .NET actually figures that out on its own and calls the appropriate version, but that's called overloading. So you have a method that you can call with a number of different types of different variables, and instead of just one, right? So if it weren't overloaded, see, like get owner here isn't overloaded because it's only got one thing you can call, right? You can call it with no properties whatsoever. All you can do is call get owner parentheses, close parentheses, and nothing inside of there. So, you know, you can't call it with any properties. You can't pass it any values. Whereas, where is it? With grant, you can pass it any number of values that are listed here in the overloads, and it kind of goes off the screen there, but it's in BOL. Anyway, okay, getting past that. So that's what overloaded is. So grant is overloaded, right? So with that in mind, I'm going to get my child items, right? I'm going to pipe them to the for each loop. Got my for each right there. I like to do my brackets, you know, one after another so I don't forget anything. Do my current iteration variable, right? And then call grant for that. So right now, what I'm doing is I've said get all the child items, which is going to be this same list All the child items is the same list of schemas right there, and pipe those to the for each. So for each one of those, I am going to call its grant method. And remember, the $_ is the current iteration variable in PowerShell. So, it's the same thing as saying for each, for each name or for each one, right? So I'm calling the grant method, put that in parentheses right now. Now I'm calling the grant method with the option variables. So the first thing I'm going to do is call it with $S, because those are the options that I want to change. And then I need to tell it which user account is going to get these guys. And right now that happens to be my domain account, right? So I'm calling the first one up there. So I've just got the options, and then I'm passing it the user account that's going to get those options. And with any luck, and this is gonna do it on every single one of those schemas. Okay, if I just wanted to do it on some of them, then I would filter out the object either with a direct filter by calling the wildcard, or I would use a where object. So here, I'll go ahead and hit that. It's actually pretty fast, and it's already done it. Now, one thing I didn't do, and this is one thing I want to caution you on, because we had this talk when we, in the Changing Job Owners video, is this alter method up here, okay? It really should be a commit method, but it's an alter method. So what we need to do is we need to call the alter method. And the way I like to teach you to do that these days is to just put a semicolon here. That's your statement terminator. And now just say $_ underscore alter, and just do it all in one sentence, right? You can go through and call the alter method afterwards, but there's no need to. So here we just altered them all at the same time. Now when I come back in here, I may have to refresh. I should get, why aren't you altering? Yes. Okay, I know what the problem is. Okay, I bet you anything. Yeah, okay, that's the problem. So, I just created this database for this. So I bet you anything it's because I already own the database, and you can't assign explicit permissions like that to anybody who owns the database. If I come here and run that again, let me refresh that. There we go. Okay, so there's my permissions, right? I got execute, I got select, and that's all I gave. So yeah, if you own the database, obviously you own everything in the database, so you already have explicit permissions on everything, so, or implicit permissions on everything, right? So it's just not gonna, it's not gonna give it to you. So anyway, I don't own the database anymore, and it's working. So again, I call the child object, I pipe it to a for each. I call the grant for each one of these, $_ I call the grant. I pass it the options. I give it the user account that I want to have those options, give my statement terminator, and then I call the alter. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and do one more. Let's say $S. Let's take a look at this. Let's do view definition. Okay? So we'll say $S dot definition equals true. Now when I come back up here and run that again, now when you come in here and see this, you're going to see that I have view definition, right? But what if I want to take permissions away? What if somebody has view definition and you want them to not have view definition? Well, that's pretty easy too. Earlier today when I first figured this out, it took me a couple minutes to pull my head out and figure out what I was doing wrong. So I come here, I've got view definition set to true, Where's view definition? There it is. So if I come here and set it to false, right, and then run this again, I've still got view definition. And that's because I'm not setting view definition to false in the database. I'm setting the fact that I want to alter it to false. So the property that S holds here, where are you? There you go. The property that S holds here of view definition equals true or view definition equals false is not is not that I'm flipping the bit in the database. I'm flipping the bit in my decision to alter that one or not, right? So I'm telling it that true or false, these are the ones I want to alter with my grant method, right? So the only ones I want to alter are execute, select, and view definition, right? So if I want to take permissions away, I want to set this back to true, that's for sure. And I want to set the others to false. So execute equals false, $ dot select equals false, okay? So now when I do this, the only one set to true is view definition, right? Now instead of grant, I want to call revoke. There we go. Now when I come back in here, view definition is gone. Okay? So yeah, just keep your head straight on this one. When you're granting, you're granting. When you're revoking, you're revoking. And these guys are the options that you want to alter with your grant or your revoke. You're not just flipping the bit on this. It's not a generic method that you're using to just flip the bit, right? You could do something like that through like WMI, right? But you couldn't do something like that through these SMO methods. So let me think if there's anything else I wanted to cover. No, I guess that's about it. So good luck, and I'll be sure and post the script with this video so you can just pull it down and take a look at it. It's really pretty easy.